Hey out there, sir. What the fuck was that? That's the first time I've ever had to restart an episode, but I don't know what this thing was. Am I fucking Doctor Strange or some shit? That was. Wow. Hey out there, survivors, and how you all doing? Welcome back to another episode of The Hidden Gems. Today, I'm delighted to be chatting to a good mate of mine. I met him at a horror festival a couple of years ago, and we immediately nerded out because we liked all the same horror movies. And as it turned out, when we then met up at Fright Fest Glasgow about a year or so later, we realized we liked a lot of the same horror games too. So that's today, folks. I am chatting to Cian O Brien, who's a filmmaker living in Dublin, but from the heart of Ireland, Offaly. Is it the heart or is it more the liver? I'm not sure.
Oh, it's a dying liver.
Like most of Ireland, cool.
True. Like myself.
How are you, Cian? How have you been getting on?
Oh, not too bad, man. I'm getting by as good as can be expected. How are you?
I'm grand. Thanks. First of all, I'd like to say thank you you've shown a lot of support, actually, even on the channel, on YouTube and over on Twitch and stuff. So thank you for that. Always very much appreciated.
Oh, don't mention it. I love what you're doing.
And then when I came up with the concept for this, which I did not totally steal from Strong Language Violent Scenes, but when I decided to start doing the Hidden Gems, there was a few immediate thoughts that popped into my head, and one of them was I remembered chatting to you, locked out of our tree in Glasgow, about the Evil Dead video game series, and we had differing tastes on certain Evil Dead games. But what I liked was that, like, we both knew of and liked most of the Evil Dead games, which...
Yeah. 2.5 the games.
Which, you know, I mean, is a pretty... When you meet somebody that A, knows those games, and B, likes those games, it's like, it's that Step Brothers moment. Did we just become best friends? You know? So, Cian, what I'm going to do is, I haven't mentioned the game that we're going to be covering today. I'm going to leave that up to you, and I'm going to ask you to give us a basic overview of that game as well, like just kind of what it is, genre, and a little bit about it.
So, game we're doing today is Evil Dead Regeneration, which my gaming history is not amazing, but I'm 99% sure it's 2005.
That sounds right. That tracks. We'll go
so
with it.
Kind of well into the PS2 era, just coming to the end of Xbox, coming into 360 era. The third in a technically series of the games, which is Hail to the King, which is a whole other mess that you and I love for very different reasons.
Yep, that's yeah.
Undeniably a Resi clone.
Yep, absolutely.
And Boomstick, which is kind of the warm up, I suppose, gameplay wise for Regeneration.
Yeah,
which is third-person shooter adventure, kind of gone into hack and slash.
Yeah, almost Resi 4-esque without realizing it was Resi 4. Obviously, it's not like that tight behind the shoulder, but like it is more action focused.
And then Regeneration.
I was just saying off mic, guys, that I kept calling it Degeneration, so I put that in his head. I'm sorry, I accepted you.
If you've noticed me pause the 2 times I've said the name of the game, that's why.
I'm so sorry. I kept getting it wrong. It's Evil Dead Regeneration. There we go.
Regeneration is, I guess it's pretty much an out-and-out hack and slash game at this point.
Yeah.
Which is, so hack and slash game begins in the kind of tutorial setup prologue, the events of Evil Dead 2 in the cabin, deer head coming to life, furniture screaming. And we then get into an alternate timeline where rather than falling into a portal and going back to Middle Ages England, Ash ends up where he rightfully belongs, in an asylum.
It's so funny because the reason they were probably like, he doesn't go to the Middle Ages is like, we don't have the rights to Army of Darkness. We've got to just like...
Oh no, that's definitely it, because in the TV show, they did the exact same thing because they couldn't get the rights to Army of Darkness. Yeah, so I'm assuming that's exactly what it is.
That's it. So yeah, Ash ends up in a mental asylum, as you say, where he rightfully belongs. Kind of, I guess, just to kind of elaborate a little bit on that. What I remember about this game, because I remember I was working in GameStop or Extravision when this came out, and I remember one of the key things that I remember, and it's part of the key box art, is this little kind of loudmouth, foul-mouthed little puppet guy.
Yeah, Sam.
Sam. Okay, yeah.
Great
There we
name.
And I remember that, was there an element of co-op to this, or like AI partner or something, where like Sam was?
Yeah, it was AI partner to an extent, but it's, you know, heavily kind of player influenced and player controlled AI. So Sam will do what you want him to do or need him to do upon forcing him, or else taking control of him. So it's, you know, you have to get into a tight corner to do something. You take control of Sam. You can kick him at enemies and he'll rip their heads off. But that's something that never even occurred to me, though. But I would love a co-op redo of this game. Oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, we are luckily, but fingers crossed, luckily, we are getting the new Evil Dead 4-player co-op game. I love that the World War Z guys have just gone, hey, let's just make 4-player co-op shooter games for all the coolest horror franchises moving forwards. I'm not sure. I don't think they're doing the Aliens one that was just announced, but like, again, that's just a World War Z clone with aliens, which I'm fine with. Like, I'm totally cool with. Co-op horror goodness. Yes, thank you.
I'm fine with taking any good game and adding aliens. Perfect.
Yes, exactly. Unlike Colonial Marines, which I'm sure somebody will probably bring on this at some point. I mean, if there was probably somebody out there who considers it a hidden gem, I'm waiting. If you're out there, hit me up, okay? Because that is a conversation I want to have. This was, as you say, kind of mid PS2 era. So like Resi 4 had come out at this point, and like a lot of those kind of like, I mean, Silent Hill 2, Project Zero, you know, a lot of these kind of survival horror games. This, as we say, is more action focused hack and slash. Even Devil May Cry and like the Legacy of Kain games went very hack and slash around this time as well. Did you enjoy that change up from, like, I mean, I'm not going to say Fistful of Boomstick was particularly scary, but like, you know, did you enjoy playing this game where it was like more action and fun?
I did, but with less of a kind of background or context for the kind of scary side of it.
Okay, yeah.
So I first played this game when it came out, or like within a few months of that. So I would have been like 7 or 8 years old at that point.
Wow.
I'd seen Army of Darkness at that point on Bravo, when I really shouldn't have been watching it.
Good old Bravo. Making kids grow up too early for it so long.
But I went over to a mate of mine's house one day. That real kind of, can Corey come out and play?
Yeah.
And he's on the PlayStation. Just go up to him. So I went up and he was playing this game, and I just thought, like, oh, fun, weird, scary action game, cool. I'm sitting there watching for a few minutes, and I start to see, like, you know, the chainsaw in the hand, the harpoon in the hand.
Yeah.
And I hear these one-liners, and I'm like, oh wait, I know this. So really, like, this game was the first kind of introduction I have to, you know, Evil Dead as Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Gameplay wise, do prefer this to Fistful of Boomstick.
Oh,
we were saying earlier, having kind of gone back and revisited this, there's a lot more of Fistful of Boomstick I've kind of realized I love more than this. But to play, I think this is a much better game. But then, like I was kind of saying, like, Fistful of Boomstick came into my life. Even the Resident Evil games came into my life like years after this.
Yeah,
so this was
exactly.
This was before I'd ever played a survival horror game, or more kind of horror scare centric.
What's interesting is, like, I'm really feeling compelled now. One of the points of this show is to try and drive people to check out stuff that they either never have or maybe forgot, or, you know. And I haven't played Degeneration since it came out. I remember, I'd say I was working in GameStop at the time, because we used to get like 30% off on games back then. So I remember, I don't think they get anywhere near that now. But I remember, like, picking this up on PS2 and going home and playing it. I think it might be one of those games that at that time I went home, drank a load of pints with the lads and like cans with the lads, and just played it through the night and beat it in one sitting and brought it back. Like,
that's most of them played this game in the last 4 or 5 years, yeah.
But yeah, now I'm like, hearing you talk about it, I'm like, I don't have clear memories of it, where I have maybe clearer memories of Hail to the King and Fistful of Boomstick. I literally, as I was saying to you off mic, I literally played a little bit of Fistful of Boomstick this morning, and I was like, oh, cool. One of the things I like, I mean, I don't know, you can shed some light on me if it's the same in Regeneration. But is, like, one thing I really like about Fistful of Boomstick is that the characters are a little bit, like, Ash is a little bit stylized, looks a little bit cartoony. which it's funny because it feels like it is geared at a more kid audience.
Weirdly does, yeah.
Yeah. So is Regeneration similar? Is it that kind of cartoony-ish vibes?
To an extent, but definitely not as kind of exaggerated or as cartoonish as Fistful of Boomstick.
Okay, cool.
That's kind of speaking for Ash himself. Like the other characters in the game, I was about to say don't kind of fit into that mold as much and seem very kind of nearly drab. But then as I said that, I mean, you've got your like little person, half deadite from New Jersey. You've got the evil German doctor who wants to raise the deadites. So like conceptually very cartoonish, but stylistically not so much.
Yeah, no, I feel you. One of the questions I usually ask is tell us about your connection to the game, but I think we kind of covered that when you were talking about like the origins of your time with it, like going and visiting your mate and checking the game out and stuff.
Yeah, that was the seed, and then like maybe like 7 or 8 years later, kind of early teens, when I think every horror fan kind of becomes obsessed with what seems illicit and discovers the video nasties. And
yes, yeah.
You know, it's like I'm watching Evil Dead in my bedroom in the corner at 3 a.m. I shouldn't be doing this because you don't know what a horror film is.
Yes. My horror kind of love in that way. I remember I was like 12 or 13 and we had a neighbor who had like a wall of videos, and it was just like, I remember I would call over to his house and just be like, can I take like that and that, and it was like Hellraiser, The Crow, and like just a couple of movies that I was like, and I took him home, and like that, like my parents were not usually, they were not into horror, so I would just sneak off and watch them like in my room, like volume down right up by the TV.
Yeah, because like as a kid, like I'd seen a lot of horror movies I shouldn't have seen.
Yeah,
we're talking like, you know, the old Universal movies, which are, you know, in the mid-late 2000s. Like no one's gonna have a problem with those.
Yeah, exactly.
And then like The Exorcist and The Omen, which are, you know, I get why they're scary films, but you know they're Hollywood productions. They're very slick. Whereas, you know, you watch Evil Dead for the first time, and if you've never seen anything like that before, it's so rough and DIY that you might as well convince yourself you're watching a snuff film.
Yeah, that's true. Like, I mean, I remember quite clearly my first experience with the Evil Dead movie. And at that time, me and my mate were trying to, like you say, root out all these films that people were like, it's the scariest ever, or it's the most gruesome ever, or it's the... So, like, we rooted out, like, Evil Dead and Texas Chainsaw, because at that time, I believe Texas Chainsaw was still banned in Ireland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we got, like, a videotape from the US, and we were like, oh, shit, we're going to watch Texas Chainsaw.
That's not in the van, no.
No, not the Man in the Van. That was that. No, different stuff for that. Last Unicorn. But no, we watched like Texas Chainsaw, we watched Natural Born Killers, which was banned here as well, and we watched Evil Dead, which I believe was possibly also banned here. And
I don't think it was here, because I know it was banned in the UK, but I'd assume it barely even got a release here then after that. It was probably not even banned, it just never really got a big
distribution, because I just remember it being, again, kind of difficult and shady to come by. I think it came on like just somebody had recorded it off of like TV or something. Like it was an unlabeled video. It was the tape from The Ring, basically, right?
How it was made to be.
Yeah, and like watching it, I do remember like what you're saying. It's like I remember being like, oh my god, the actors in this are terrible. This is so low production value. This is so rubbish. And I was about, again, probably about 14 or 15 at this time, and like, but then once it started to get into the swing of it and just madness was breaking out, I was like, I don't understand how, if this is a super low budget production thing, how they made this. Like,
I think it's kind of, no matter what your feelings on it are, they're decided once you get to for the purposes of keeping things clean on the channel, we'll just call it the tree scene.
There we go. I was like, he's got to be going there, right? Like, I feel like that's one thing about the other Evil Dead media, like the games, and even not the show, but like some of the other Evil Dead media that's out there, is that like they definitely make it a little less offensive, a little less grossly offensive. In saying that, I think that Regeneration still has, if I remember correctly, it still has some kind of like what's meant to be funny but could be kind of considered grossly offensive moments.
There are a few, yeah. It's not kind to little people.
Yeah, exactly. That's where my brain was going. I was like, if I remember correctly, it does not handle that subject matter very well. But again, Like this is 2005, which is now 16 years ago when you think about it that way.
Whole other world at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Where there was my wife is rewatching House at the moment, and I'm watching it every so often. I come in and she's watching it, and I'm like, "Oh shit, they would not get away with that today."
Oh,
Oh shit! Like everything that Gregory House says, I'm just like, "Yeah, no, this show could only exist in the bubble of 2007, 2013,
I
or
mean,
whatever."
even if you go back to like shows that are still going and hugely popular now, if you go back and watch the first 2 or 3 seasons of like Always Sunny or something,
Oh
I'm
God!
surprised still keep that line. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So coming back to Regeneration, though, what do you feel is, if anything, does this game do like completely unique that other games of the same type don't do? Like, what is its USP, its unique selling point? Like,
Okay, this is really going into the hidden gems area because there are a few, but I think the big one is how, as much as we talked about how like kind of the later media differs from the first and to an extent the second movie,
yeah,
this game is so in line with what Evil Dead is.
yeah,
Which is, I think, like, you know, being a kid and having not seen the Evil Dead, and like kids will play anything, but like going back to it in the last few years, and like as you know, and as anyone watching this who knows me will know, I am an Evil Dead obsessive.
yep.
Like,
It's true.
I've got Evil Dead. I've got Evil Dead tattoos. I've probably spent hundreds, if not like over $1,000 or $2 on like different copies of Evil Dead Blu-rays and VHS tapes and DVDs and games. And it's like from moment one, like the loading screen or the menu screen.
Yeah.
Where you've got it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, so I'm going to counteract my obsessive nature. But it's Linda, I think, dancing.
Yeah.
You know, from the start of the second movie, dancing in front of the cabin. You've got this weird, foggy atmosphere. You get in to the kind of prologue tutorial that I talked about, and it's that scene from Evil Dead 2. You've got the very Raimi-esque camera angles and cutscenes and
yeah, it's all
kind of
Dutch angle kind of, yeah.
And then even as the game goes on and it kind of ventures into that kind of hack and slash bombastic kind of more Army Darkness than Evil Dead 1 kind of vibes, it gets that slapstick humor so right, like so well. And then like even just tiny little references, like we mentioned earlier how Sam, the like half deadite New Jersey, the little guy, like his entire point in the game is to be abused by Ash, who is obviously voiced by Bruce Campbell. So like the fact that they call that character Sam, like with the kind of the stories Raimi, like personally torturing Bruce Campbell on set.
Yeah,
just those little details like that just made me fall in love with this game.
I love that. I never even pegged that. I was like, that's genius. Yeah, because obviously anybody that is a fan of the series, know the movies and everything knows, that like Raimi put Campbell through hell. Like,
and like I think with this game, whatever your opinions in the trilogy are, whatever your opinions of which game is best, which game is sucks, I think this is the best, if not the best game of the three. It's the best Evil Dead game of the three, I think.
I totally get you. I mean,
most ways anyway.
From my memory, I think I'm not hugely versed, but like Fistful of Boomstick to me, even though the game, like, it's really enjoyable, I would say it's maybe the furthest deviation from like of the three from being like yes, it's got the one-liners. I think that's what it does maybe really well, is the one-liners.
You have a one-liner button in that game, which is one thing I really miss in Regeneration.
Yeah, like it does that really well, but I feel like a lot of the other stuff just feels a little bit like it could have been copy-pasted into any action game from that era a little bit.
Yeah.
With Hail to the King, I like that they tried to keep it in the spooky cabin setting and keep it that like they did try to keep it really within the vibe, but it veers a lot more, as we've said, towards the horror side than the action side.
Yeah, which is one of the things now, as I've said to you off mic a few times, like I really need to go back and revisit that game and rephrase it. But that is like, as memory stands, is one of the things I do love about that game, is that kind of spooky, like atmospheric, like very kind of like very in line with Evil Dead kind of tone.
It's weird if we start to break this down. Okay, Cian, I think we're onto something here, right? If we start to break this down, if you look at Hail to the King, it's quite like Evil Dead 1. It's rough around the edges. It doesn't all quite work, but it sets a tone that is unnerving. And while it's not like a perfect product, it's like really dark and nasty and
effective, yeah.
And then when you look at Fistful of Boomstick, it's quite, it's got the one-liners. It's quite fun. It's quite enjoyable and over the top. But a little bit like Evil Dead 2. And then when you look at Regeneration, I mean, I'm not
full-on comedy adventure story,
yeah, like Army of Darkness. It's almost like we get the trilogy of movies again via games, like.
Which is why if they're doing this, then we need a fourth game to meld them all like the TV show. It has to come full circle.
Or we need like the really ultra gory, nasty, evil, dark game that feels like the Fede Alvarez movie.
Oh, you clearly haven't played the Evil Dead is it Endless Nightmare, the Temple Run clone.
Oh God, no, I have not. Okay, so that's
No.
Fede Alvarez did not sign off on that. I don't believe it.
No, I'm sure Sam Raimi did want to line his pockets. And Rob Tappert.
No, I would. I mean, that's one thing I do like. Actually, we'll jump very quickly for a minute. We'll talk about the new game that's coming out. One of the things that excites me the most about that is when I saw that Dana De Lorenzo reprises her role from the show in the game. I was like, sign me the fuck up, please.
Oh yeah.
And it's interesting because then we've got a knight character, I believe, is one of the others, and then I can't remember what the fourth character is. But I was looking at it going, this feels like it's literally taking bits from each of the movies, like and showing.
Yeah, that trailer kind of gave you a little bit of maybe less Army of Darkness, but not like a little bit of everything.
Yeah, so like, I mean, I'm quite hopeful. As I say, I wouldn't have been if I hadn't played World War Z, because I heard middling things about World War Z. I heard it was, and I wasn't a huge fan of the movie World War Z at all. I love the book. The book is phenomenal, but I was like, I don't think I'll bother playing World War Z. And then me and my mates I think we got it free on PlayStation Plus or something like that. And we just said, we'll give it a go and play it. And then I got addicted. So when I found out it was those guys doing the new Evil Dead game, I was like, I'm okay with this. I'm fine.
I was like, from my very brief, 40-minute experience with World War Z,
it's fun.
Give it to me.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like that, but with Ash and Kelly and whatever I'm in. But yeah, it's cool that, I mean, Regeneration was the last kind of the last actual console released Evil Dead game.
It was the last Evil Dead game that wasn't mobile. I think.
So, I mean, you're talking, as we say, 16 years. So the fact that 16 years on, we are getting a new console-based Evil Dead game is exciting. Definitely.
And I think that kind of speaks to the although the show was cancelled because of an apparent lack of interest, it kind of speaks to there's no lack of public interest in this.
No, that's what I don't get.
This is all people want.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that will always be forever sour about the show getting cancelled. I don't think anything will ever dull that for me. But as you say, there's stuff flying around about the movie that Bruce is producing out in New Zealand. The one set in Los Angeles.
Evil Dead Rise, yeah.
Yeah, this franchise is showing no signs of stopping.
No, and I know Bruce. I was going to call him Ash. I know Bruce Campbell has said he's retired from the character of Ash. But I mean, if this game does really well, it's got Dana De Lorenzo as Kelly, and it's got Bruce Campbell back as Ash. Maybe it'll renew interest enough to bring it back.
Can you imagine?
Fingers crossed. It won't happen, but fingers crossed.
I know, yeah. If we set ourselves up for it's not going to happen, then if it does, we get that moment of yes, at least it did. I mean,
half a season.
Yeah, exactly. Just close things out. Just a little bit of closure, folks. One of the things that I get from this is that this is a franchise that is going to continue on. We're now 40 years probably since the release of the first movie.
40 years now. Yeah, it's 81, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 81. So and we're still at a point where we are getting new media. We're getting new movies. We're getting new games. So there are people out there who are maybe just getting into this world, this franchise. They might have watched a show on Netflix, or they might have picked up Evil Dead 2 because somebody recommended it to them. And there's a whole world of Evil Dead content for them to explore. And so that leads me to the next question, which is, why should somebody out there play it?
That's a big question.
We always finish with the big questions around here.
Right. So I think it kind of goes back to what we've kind of talked about, whereas I I think it's an enjoyable game. Like off the cuff as a standalone property, it is an enjoyable game. It's a great hack and slash. Like it definitely falls into the kind of Devil May Cry clone kind of area. But what game didn't at the time, or what hack and slash game didn't at the time?
True, yeah.
But it's considered as a detriment or a point in its favor. But you're gonna play through it in somewhere between 3.5 and 5 hours.
I love short games that are paced really well. It's one of my sweet spots actually, because it means I can just replay them.
And it's such an like I don't know how to elaborate on it properly, but it's just the gameplay is so smooth. Like it's such an easy game to play, and there are problems with it. Like there are some tedious escort missions because obviously it's product of the time.
Yeah,
and the kind of level and location design can be dull at times. But it still never becomes boring because even in these kind of gray, drab locations, like you've got a crappy kind of suffering clone in the asylum, and then every kind of generic, you've got the woods, the swamp, the mines, the port town. But it plays so smoothly and it runs so well. Runs in terms of like running through it so well.
Yeah.
And then so I think it's a very easy game to get into as a standalone property. And then if you're coming into this having kind of dipped your toes into the world of Evil Dead and you're looking for more, then as I've kind of said earlier, with how deeply it goes into even the little kind of references and in-jokes, like if you're an Evil Dead fan anyway, you will get many things out of this, not just something.
Yeah.
And it kind of, as we kind of mentioned, it is that kind of perfect melding of whatever part of the Evil Dead franchise you like, you will get some element of that in here. Like you've got the Raimi style, you've got the kind of Evil Dead 2 comedy horror, and then you've got a lot of that kind of Army of Darkness, like real kind of bombastic adventure comedy with a little bit of spook thrown in.
I mean, I'm literally, you have, when you said it's between 3.5 and 5 hours long, my brain was like, when I finish Vagrant Story for Throwback Tuesdays, Evil Dead Degeneration, or Regeneration. Fuck's sake. We're just gonna call it's now called Degeneration, folks. Just as a heads up, if you go to get a copy of this anywhere, it will have been changed. I love a game that I could finish in one sitting on stream. Is kind of my dream at the moment. Like that's what I aspire for.
Yeah, like I don't think I've ever taken more than like 2 sittings max to finish this game, and I've played through it 4 or 5 times.
I think, because again, I am a huge fan of the franchise. My excitement's renewed with the news of the new game and Rise and stuff. So as I say, I played a little bit of Fistful of Boomstick earlier. I play Hail to the King every maybe 2 years. I go back and play a bit of it on Dreamcast because I personally think that was the best version of Hail to the King because it had the smoothest.
I've heard that, yeah.
Stuff. Still wasn't a great game. I'm going to be very clear about that. Like, I understand that Hail to the King is kind of muck, but I love it.
That's the point of the series, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If I could do, I keep saying this, there's certain games that if I could do an episode myself, which maybe in the future will happen, we'll reverse roles and I'll pick a game. But
I'll add a caveat as well. I've only played this game on the PS2 and briefly enough on the PC, but from everything I've heard, if you were going back to play this game and you're getting a physical copy, apparently your best bet is the Xbox version.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because in that generation, the Xbox would have been the powerhouse console.
Apparently it runs a bit smoother than you're getting the full kind of 720p graphics, which were peak at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I remember with a lot of games of that era, like even Splinter Cell, which came out first on the Xbox and then it came to PS2. And I played it on the Xbox because so few people had an Xbox at that time that I knew anyway. And then everyone was playing Splinter Cell on the PS2 and they're like, it's so great. And when I played it on PS2, I was like, this looks fucking shocking by comparison to the Xbox version, lads. You don't understand how much worse this looks.
It's swapping from a 4K to a tube TV.
Yeah, basically. It's literally guys, we've traveled back in time. We're in the 1500s playing this game. So knowing that, I mean, I'm always fascinated by PC ports, so I may end up trying to get a PC port to this, actually. Check if it's on Good Old Games or something. That was actually going to be my next question, and you've kind of answered it already, which is, how can someone play it? So, I mean, as you said, there's PS2, there's a PC version, there's Xbox.
Yeah, I think your best bet with kind of, unless you're still running with an Xbox or a 360 or a PS2, your best bet is probably to am I
Emulate.
allowed to promote emulation here?
The way I always say it about emulation, because people get very scared about it, I see that, is that like there's nothing wrong with emulation. Just get a copy of the game. It's that easy because I have all my games sitting up here, so that if anybody comes in one of my streams and is like, "Hey, your emulation, blah blah blah," I'm like, just gonna grab the game and be like, "Yeah, what? Say what, bro?" And like at the same time, nobody I promote it in that way. I say, please try and pick up a copy on eBay. I guarantee you can probably pick up a copy of this game for about $10 on eBay.
I got mine in a charity shop near Connolly Station for $3.50 there a year or two ago. So
fucking bargain. But that's what I say to people. But like at the same time, even if you do buy this off some shady scalper on eBay, the people who made the game are not going to receive a penny from it. So like they are kind of in an abandonware stage to some extent.
Yeah.
I mean PS2's it's been discontinued from production. That's the way I look at it in my head is the console discontinued from production, and if so,
then the developers are taking a loss either way.
Yeah, it's got like nobody's making money from that product anymore. Like you can't walk into GameStop and buy Evil Dead Regeneration. God, I was going to say it right the first time. This has become the running joke of this episode. Christ. So, Cian, we've talked a lot about Evil Dead, and you've talked about how you love that movie and stuff. Which brings me to you are a filmmaker.
As you say, yeah.
No, I'm going to be like Joe Lynch now, and I'm going to be like, no, you stop it. I'm going to be your Joe Lynch. That's my role in life.
You already are, Paddy. You already are.
But
you're mentor and guiding light to me.
Obviously, you told me off mic several times you were in the process of shooting something. Lockdown came along, put paid to all your plans, and so the plan is once lockdown is a thing of the past and we're all recovering from it, that you will be back out there continuing on with the movie you're making.
Yeah, so we're working on a short at the minute that's a little haunted house thing. We had production completely sorted, went into the edit, got the rough draft done, and realized, there are some glaring continuity issues here.
Been there, done that.
So if it hadn't been for a kind of very short kind of development and pre-pro cycle, we would probably have it in the can by now, but alas.
As you said, at the time as well, you had a tiny window because it was hey, we're out of lockdown for 6 weeks, go.
Yeah. And I can't even give you a name on that. It was titled Malignant, which once this comes out and once you probably see it before anyone else, but once you see this, you'll get why.
Yeah.
But a week or two after finishing the first kind of round of filming, I logged onto Twitter one day, and the first thing was a news article about James Wan's new movie, Malignant.
I was like, I've heard that name before. What the fuck?
That was a crushing blow.
It happens, man. It happens a lot. When titles are hard because you're like, this is genius. Which is why when Mikey came to me with Lulu and the Electric Dreamboat, I was like, well, at least I'm sure the title's not going to be taken anyway.
Can't wait for the sequel now. Lulu and the Electric Dreamboat, Degeneration.
Yeah, we keep talking about how there's so many sequel titles for Lulu, but also I keep confusing it because I have a script that I was given to look at a couple of years ago, and that has a very similar name, so I keep overlap when I'm talking to Mikey. I'm like, so in Lulu, it's shit. And Mikey's like, crossover. We got to do a crossover. The Celtic Badger.
I've already come up with your sequel. Dreamboat 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, man. Guys, Cian, you were very active on your Twitter, from what I read.
I am, to a depressing extent sometimes.
I enjoy your Twitter, so based off my recommendation alone, folks, please check out Cian's Twitter. There will be links in the description. Is there any other social media platforms you'd like to highlight?
Instagram, I am active-ish on. So if you follow me, you will see something every 3 or 4 months. And you'll see a lot of me just posting on my story about how much I love Clayman by In Flames. That's about it.
There you go, folks.
No, you can throw that in the description if you want, but definitely Twitter is the go-to.
Twitter is where you're at. I see you getting into a lot of awesome, interesting discussions with friends of the show here, like Andy Stewart and Strong Language and all those, and all the horror community. You've become quite ingrained in the horror community, which is awesome.
Yeah, definitely. That's partially thanks to the kind of 50-50 split between Strong Language and knowing you. So cheers, buddy.
No worries, man. I'm glad that we ended up meeting, and I think did I tap cigarettes off you? Is that how we met? I can't remember.
We met. There's a three-way story to that. We met because you were tapping cigarettes. Or we met in the line for the Color Out of Space because neither of us knew if we were in the right line.
Yes, that's true, yeah.
Then we got properly chatting because you were tapping cigarettes off me. And then the friendship started because me, you, and another kind of smoking area, we were talking about the Suspiria remake.
Yes.
I said it's better than the original, and you said, me too, I'm adding you on Facebook.
It literally was our stepbrothers moment. It was just like...
We just become best friends.
Oh, man. Yeah, and guys, this is one thing I'll say is once lockdown passes, right? If you have something you're passionate about, right? It doesn't matter, like horror movies, fashion, I don't know, anything, like something that gets you like excited. Go to the events, go to festivals, go to conventions, go to stuff, because you could end up meeting somebody that you end up like mates with, which is all the point of why we're on this big, stupid spinning rock in space.
Yeah, like I'll add to that. Like I started properly going to film festivals with the Horathon in Dublin there the year before last. Now it's been a long year.
Yeah, exactly. It's wait, time doesn't exist anymore.
Like once I came out of my shell and started going to these, like at the Horathon I met you, Fright Fest I met a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Then lockdown hit. So those are the only two film fests I've gone to. And just the amount of like friendships, and some of them like pretty close and tight knit. Like, I mean, me and you, for example.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't think of going in. And I went into the first couple of days of that festival thinking like, just hide in the back of the smoking area or hide in the back of the cinema.
You weren't expecting some random clear lad to be like, hi, you got any cigarettes? Go on.
What's the line for Color Out of Space?
No, but it's true.
There.
It is true. Like it is. I was the very same. Like when I first went to Fright Fest, I went with a friend of mine, Mike Shawcross, and I was literally like, just cling to Mike for the whole weekend. Don't interact with. Don't look anyone else in the eye. Just stay with Mike. And then after that first weekend, the amount of friendships that I came away from, I was like, I'm coming back next year. I don't. And then I feel bad because you have probably had that experience, and now this year it was like, oh, you want to go back, huh? Tough.
Yeah, I came back from Fright Fest in Glasgow and I started putting change in a jar to save up to go to London, and here we are.
Yeah, but at least whatever events come up after all this has passed, we will appreciate them, I reckon, a lot more.
If we can remember them afterwards.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So guys, as I say, I will put links in the description. Follow Cian. Check out Resident Evil Regeneration.
Regeneration.
What did I say? Resident Evil? Oh, for fuck's sake! Oh my god, I was so confident. That was.
You have to close it on that.
Oh, okay. I will. I'll be leaving that in though.
Paddy, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
I know. I was up so late last night though. I blame Persona. I check out Evil Dead Regeneration. There we go. We got there at the end. We got there. Cian has giving you all the reasons to. And as per always, guys, please like, subscribe, hang around here for all the hidden gems, all the interviews, all the cool, fun stuffs that we got coming. And yeah, I will say what I say at the end of every episode, which is, let's survive together and peace out. Thanks so much, Kate.
Thanks, Paddy. Pleasure.